Brace yourselves, this is quite the topic. We loathe cheating in this country and celebrate monogamy. But do we maybe have that wrong?
Maybe a growing number of couples in the U.S. choosing non-monogamy as part of their relationship instead. So here, New York Times Magazine recently posing this question: is an open marriage a happier marriage?
So is it? Joshua Magallanes is a licensed mental health therapist in Seattle. So we should start by defining, what do we mean when we say monogamy?
Monogamy is an interpersonal relationship between two people who don't use sexual exclusivity as their primary focus in the relationship. It's maybe more emotional, but where sex is not just the only reason for them being together. So
Interesting.
So what is really going on when we talk about an open marriage? Like, how do you open up your marriage? Or like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is that
right? And I think it's growing much more. When people open up their marriage, it really is an agreement between the two, and it's consensual. It's agreements that they make up between each other, so that lying doesn't come into the door. I think that's what forces people to cheat, because they feel like they have to hide or and go behind the partner rather than saying, hey, you know what? I've been wanting to try whatever, X, Y, or Z, and go that route and be honest about it and to communicate.
You've worked with a lot of couples over the years. Are we really seeing more of this, or are we just now suddenly starting to hear about it?
Well, I think society plays a big role in that, right? As a society, we see monogamy as something as the standard and to hold. And in my experience, in my practice, I've seen couples who come in who have had that experience maybe in a prior relationship and have chosen to be closed or mutually exclusive in their current relationship, or folks who come to see me and want to open up the relationship. So I'm seeing it all over the place. It's not just one area more than the other.
Why do you think it is that we're talking about this? Do you think that it's because there's so many places we could be reading about it? Are we becoming more liberated as a society to discuss different forms of relationships? What do you think is sort of precipitating at least a bigger discussion about open relationships?
Sure. Well, I hope we're getting liberated, right? I mean, I think when we look at gay rights movement and things like that and coming out, it was very, people were fearful, didn't want to talk about it. And even sex in this country is so taboo anyway. And I think more and more couples are getting into relationships and realizing, wait a minute, I'm emotionally connected to you and I'm sexually connected to you, but I also feel sexually connected to other people, and I think that can be okay. And so I think that's what is really pushing folks to want to be in this consensual, non-monogamy relationship or type of relationship.
I can feel people watching this who might maybe feel something that I feel, which is I'm a very emotional person.
Sure.
I'm extremely emotional. It's really hard for me to disconnect the two. Logically, what you're saying, I think, okay, yeah, I can see why some people do that. It makes sense. Are there actual benefits to it? And are there benefits even when you have one or two people in the relationship who are very emotionally connected?
Yeah, I think there can be benefits. Again, it's my opinion, my professional opinion. But folks who might be dealing with abandonment and feeling as though going into this non-monogamous relationship with this individual who says, it's okay for us to do this. I trust that you're going to come back, and please trust that I'm going to come back to you as well. So I think that could be a benefit. Jealousy, I think it's a great way, or some people have worked through jealous issues.
By opening up their marriage?
By opening up.
Wow.
How so?
Well, I think, folks who open up the relationship see it as a non-threat. Especially when both have the okay, right? When we think about polygamy relationships or other cultures or religious communities who maybe there's one partner with many, and those many partners don't get to have other relationships, but that one does.
So there's like a power balance that seems like you'd have to be navigating. Okay, so I know there are people at home screaming at the TV being like, monogamy is the right answer here, people. Sure. There have to be risks to this. I mean, it seems very fraught with a lot of risk because we as a society aren't good at this necessarily.
Right. I think there are risks, and it really takes talking to each other and communicating truthfully. And being open to what your partner has to say and not coming in with judgment. I think there have been instances where folks maybe catch their partner watching porn and have that emotional connection, and need to just talk about it. Hey, what's that about? I notice you had this on the computer screen or whatnot. Is that about me, or is it about us, or is there just an extra need that you might have? So I think, trust, and also communicating. When I work with couples in my practice, that's one of the probably the highest reason why couples come in is we just can't talk. There's a tough situation, there's a hard topic, and we just can't get around it. And I say, well, let's go through it. Let's talk about it and communicate openly. And I think some of the risks as well is if we're not being so truthful and having to go around and cheat, there's a higher, I would say, increase for STIs or STDs. And what some of the research does show, and some articles have talked about, is that when folks are in this consensual non-monogamous relationship, that does go down. So I think there's some safety or some potential positive factors as well.
Very quickly, is there a difference for straight versus gay couples? We talk about that a lot, and we saw that when we were researching this topic, that it's talked about a little differently.
Yeah, I think being part of the queer community, I think it's over-sexualized anyway, and many folks are open and wanting to talk about it, and I think it gets taboo when we talk about it in the heterosexual world, right? Like, it's not okay to do that. I mean, when you think about society saying, hey, you're supposed to get married, have 2.5 kids and a dog and a white picket fence, it's hard to say, oh, and by the way, we have multiple partners.
Yeah. Right, you can see why that is a difficult subject and difficult conversation. Well, like I said, we had a lot of questions, so thank you for sitting here and helping us.
Thank you so much.
We're going to keep you after the show if it's okay. We're going to talk to you some more. We'll air that this weekend on our weekend morning news over on Joe TV.
And let us know if you have any questions you'd like to add. I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.